You might know the next person that's going to be speaking here. He's from a very famous group in Poland, WP. Anyone knows that? Probably you know it. Well, anyways, he's a big fan of Tesla. He likes Brand of Brothers. He's smart as Sherlock Holmes and loves Firefly. Without further ado, Gabor. Big round of applause.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gabor Wnuk. I'm the guy responsible for mobile products in Grupa Wirtualna Polska. And I want to underline the word products, as these are both iOS and Android native apps, as well as progressive web apps you've heard a lot today. And to clear one thing up, React Native is not some kind of silver bullet. It won't turn an app you've created during this weekend into an Instagram. It won't make you rich over the night. I mean, it will if you're a developer. So you have to decide by yourself whether it's really worth it to turn your tech stack upside down. It's all up to you if it will, for example, cut your development cost by half, or, for example, support cost. So it might be a nice thing to have. The React Native is not a phone gap either. That's why we've completely ignored the Ionic, as it's based on Cordova. So meh. We've created one app actually in PhoneGap 2 years ago, I think, and it was the worst app we have ever created. It was slow, users hated it, and in a matter of fact, it would have been better if we haven't released it at all. So yeah, don't do this. So React Native is truly native. And for those of you who want to dig into one of our products ASAP, this is Pudelek. Do you know Pudelek? Yeah. Okay, don't be shy. Okay, so this was one of our brownfield projects. The major part of Pudelek is created in React Native. What's more, it has around 500,000 users now, active users. So if you want to check out how the entire stuff works, just download it from App Store or Google Play Store. It's both on iOS and Android. So what are we aiming for? I mean, when we've started our research towards React Native, we've had a few wishes we wanted to achieve. So first of all, we wanted to be able to utilize greenfield and brownfield approach, where a brownfield approach is when you have an existing app, you have your monetization, user acquisition, bugs fixed, and so on, and you just can't throw everything out because there is a new tech on the horizon. So that's what Facebook did. It's not like they haven't rewritten the entire Facebook app in React Native because they don't trust in or believe in React Native. It wouldn't have make any sense. That's what Airbnb did, and they were actually like a blueprint for us. They also had two separate apps, two repos. They wanted to create a common code base, and actually that's what we did. We wanted to increase importance of our native development team. I mean, creating an app, a native app, is super expensive. If you want to create an app for iOS and Android, you have to create two separate apps. You have to pass both of those apps through your QA and so on. So if we would be able to cut the development cost, for example, by, I don't know, maybe 40%, it would have been a huge change. We wanted to be able to write code for 3 platforms by 1 developer. Before the change, we've had around, I think, 22 iOS and Android developers, and a dozen of React developers. And if, for example, someone told us to create an app, we've had to create 3 apps. And each of those apps had to be passed through QA. And if there was a bug, for example, it didn't mean the bug was only in one app. Or, for example, the other way around. If something worked in one app, we still had to check two apps again. So yeah, time is money. We are a public company. We have shareholders, and shareholders love money. So yeah, there you have it. And last but not least, our goal was to convince our native developers that moving this direction was the right thing for their career. And to be honest, it didn't work out so well. So actually, I have never received during the 10-year-long career of mine so much anger before. So you're trying to convince Java and Kotlin and Swift and Objective-C developers to move and just go and write code in JavaScript. So this can't work. And what's even worse, this time we were actually serious. We've tried to introduce Xamarin into our tech stack like a year earlier, and actually it didn't fit out of our tech stack. So yeah. However, yeah, React Native is here. Big software houses in Warsaw are changing the entire tech stacks to React Native, not because they want it, but because the clients are looking for React Native. And actually, currently, if you are a React Native developer, you might get around 10,000 euros a month in Warsaw after the tax if you are doing freelance job. So yeah. This should be convincing, and if this is not convincing, there are few major companies which have the entire business model around React Native apps. Of course, obviously Facebook, Airbnb, but for example Skype. If you are using Skype, the last version, I mean, I think they did it like a month ago or maybe 2 months ago. The entire Skype is created in React Native. So yeah. Still, super different app, but created in React Native. Okay, so where's the magic? There's no web view, no HTML, no like Cordova, or those are really native apps. Everything you do, everything you write, every piece of code you write in JavaScript is executed in JSVM. Then it's passed through React Native Bridge and executed on the native side. So this is a rather simplified version of React Native architecture, but yeah, it should work. So first of all, you execute some code in JSVM. Then this code is this call is serialized by the bridge, and it's serialized to a form of a simple JSON. Then it's processed on the native side, and the funny thing is the entire native side is executed in a main thread. So you actually can't lock your app if you're doing some extensive work in JS. The UI will be still responsive and super fast. So okay, so you collect and notify JSVM the other way around. You serialize response also in form of simple JSON, and yeah, you process the response in JSVM. For example, one of our app uses a few of those calls. This is a call with init with frame. You're creating a view, native view inside your React Native app. So you have name of the method, few parameters. You're serializing the call. It looks like this, and you execute the corresponding code on the React Native, actually on the native side. So I think the easiest way to understand React Native is if you assume everything you write in JavaScript has its representation on the native side in form of a Java file or Objective-C file. So if you, for example, are doing some kind of fetch, you are trying to receive some data from your endpoint, you're doing this fetch, and in a matter of fact, if you open the React Native repo and look for Objective-C files, you will find that, in fact, this fetch is an SURL session class, and everything here is pretty familiar for any native iOS developer. And if you will open Java files, it's OK HTTP. It's a super popular Android library for performing this kind of networking tasks. So if you will need, for example, to change the way your app is communicating with the world, it's obviously possible, and yeah, it's super simple. Okay, so let's talk about brownfield and greenfield approach, where, as I said, brownfield is when you have an existing app, you just want, there's no reason to rewrite it from scratch because there is a React Native. And greenfield is when you just when you're just creating an app from scratch, and you have the freedom to choose whatever tech stack you really want. So in a greenfield approach, you just type React Native in it, the name of your project, and actually you're set. So you have this directory, pretty standard for a React Native project, and there are two directories which are especially important. These are Android and iOS directories. If you open each of them up, these are standard Xcode and standard Android Studio projects. So just open them up in Xcode or Android Studio, and the entire thing should be pretty easy to build. Then so you place your iOS and Android projects in proper directories. Then you add native dependencies in your pod file or build Gradle. These are like package.json files for your iOS and Android app. For example, pod file looks like this. It's a super simple Ruby file. So you just add those package names, React core text, some basic components to do debugging and so on. You install all the dependencies. So you run yarn install, pod install, you install all dependencies, and voila. So yeah, that's it. So I have a short demo for you to show you how the entire thing actually works. So yeah, okay, so this is the other screen. Where is it? Okay, so here it is. And my Visual Studio Code. Okay, so this demo is based on our existing Pudelek app. It looks a bit rough because these are all the fonts are mixed up. This is a gallery, and you obviously can't see any of the images. So okay, so this project is now listening on a WebSocket for any changes I might now make. So let's try to show some images. So I will just add a component, a ready component. It's called image preview. As you can see, everything is refreshed in real time. Actually, for web developers, it's not something super weird, but for a native developer, it's almost like a witchcraft. As previously, every change I will now make required to be built. It might took around 4 minutes, for example, and yeah, and it was extremely slow. And for example, if in bigger applications, like for example VideoStar, where we have few flavors and few targets for separate devices, this might take even 20 minutes or more. So yeah, it was horrible. So okay, so we have the image now on our screen. This is, by the way, the state preserving hot reload. So if I, for example, scroll down, and try to fix more of the styles here. So okay, this is a header, this iterator here. Now it looks a lot better. And okay, so header title, and yeah, and we are still on the same, actually almost on the same, in the same place where we've been before. Again, maybe this arrow. Okay, so now these are a few. Okay, so we have few warnings, but only because I have no internet connection, and then yeah, so those images are cached. So yeah. Okay, so that's it for a demo. Okay, so we wanted to be able to write code by one developer on 3 separate platforms, and it almost worked out. So we were able to separate business logic. It's like 60 or maybe 70% of our each app. So like data models, APIs, and so on. We were able to separate it from the presentation layer. So models, data parsing, networking, data repository, and so on are now separate and in a common code base across iOS, Android, and our web apps. And we have the presentation layer completely separate. And the reason is we didn't want to force our users to have the same UI experience across all platforms. For example, Android user doesn't want to have an iOS app on his device, and the other way around. So yeah, and going even further, we were able to optimize the way our components are created, our visual components are created, in the way so the lifecycle is common for our all components across all platforms, and we were able to create components which have actually only the render function in it. So, shared knowledge, single language, better product quality. As I said before, we've had a lot of developers, but most of them did the same thing over and over on the separate platforms. Now we have a single point where we just share our knowledge. Our web developers can now create native apps. Our native developers now, when you show them, for example, web React app, they completely they feel like they are at home. So something pretty cool. Hot reloading. That was actually the biggest impact on our development. So currently you have like those 1 second reloads, and before it was around 4 minutes for each change. I mean, it's not like good developer, I mean iOS or Android developer had to rebuild the app every time he changed, for example, a color. But yeah, it was pretty often. And again, pretty important stuff. You still use the same quality patterns as before. So in our case, it was BDD. It's a standard art spec. So if you are an Android, iOS, Ruby developer, it's the same thing you were used to. So yeah, and flow type. So the reason we've used flow type, first of all, it's provided with React Native out of box. So yeah, and second of all, we wanted to make our code look like we wrote it in Kotlin or Swift. So yeah, this entire thing, yeah. Okay, and one of the last things, but definitely not least important, you still need native developers. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of you, React guys, will be able to write like 80% of every React Native app by your own. However, there are things like provisioning, signing, deployment, and so on, which for a native developer are pretty obvious and would force you to Google and waste your time. So yeah, sometimes there are things you would have to write in Objective-C or Java, mainly because they weren't supported, supplied with the React Native. So yeah. And as I said, time is money. So I will show you a few numbers. First of all, our revenue boost, and yeah, this number is completely wrong, as this you might see the asterisk, and this number doesn't take into account that currently we need only the half of our developers to do one thing, so we can do twice as much. And the other thing is this number would be correct for iOS, as the Pudelek app was already pretty fast. However, in Android, this number would be around maybe 100% and maybe 110%. The app, so okay. And yeah, that's a huge boost. We have around 98% of shared code base between iOS and Android. The star is for yes, it was iOS and Android. If we take into account our web app, it's around 60%, and it's a brownfield project, so it wasn't created from ground up. We are simply replacing every single piece over and over with the new code base written in React Native or in React, actually. Our crash-free users, the measure we are using to describe how many users had crashes, actually didn't have any crash in the last 7 days, is around currently previously it was around 98%, because it's like lowest we can go and be okay with it. So it was 98%. Currently we've boosted the number by around 1 percentage point, so it's around 99%, and that was mainly because Pudelek is like a 7 years old app, and the code base was pretty rough. So we've replaced existing Objective-C code with the new one written in JavaScript. And what was really surprising for us, okay, so hot reloading. Currently we have 1 second state preserving reload versus 4-minute build. So across the entire day of development, it's something amazing. It's actually currently we have 2 separate app development teams, and yeah, this is something they are really jealous about. So yeah, it was super nice to have. And the last thing. It was actually pretty surprising that we were able to manage to have around 60 FPS on even really weak devices. I mean the very basic Android devices and so on. So the lowest we could go was on an iPhone 4S. So it was pretty weird, but it was the weakest device. I mean, the slowest we could go with our app. It was around 45 frames per second still. And what was surprising, Android apps are working a lot faster than on iOS. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Okay, so that's all from me. If you have any questions, I will be somewhere here. Obviously, this was just a basic introduction to React Native. If you have any questions about something more advanced, go ahead, catch me, and yeah, thank you.